The scene begins as the rest of the kindred have left the Looking Glass Cabaret for the Elysium. Calliope finishes tidying up the fourth floor and then walks her way up towards the upper area where the prince had been gloating for the rest of the night, watching everyone else have fun, and then walks over in his general direction.
The prince has spent the last 30 minutes or more within the gallery in which his art is being displayed. The furthest wall has been taken up with this particular piece. He gave a quite prominent favour to a toreador to have it announced at this Elysium. It's a painted picture of an autumn landscape of sunset. Brilliant hues of browns and reds and oranges, all with like incredible detail, as if the artist had painted it all with a single head brush. And those with a very keen eye can see that the coloration of it all isn't in paint, but in blood. A very fitting piece, signed by a very prominent toreador of New York. The prince stands at attention, slightly adrift in his own thoughts, allowing his auspex to soak in all of the detail of the piece. Seems to be entranced in it in his own way.
I just actually rolled 3 successes on my avoiding entrancement roll, so that never happens. So she's going to go upstairs to the rest of the sets of art and look things over as she goes. Knowing how the entrancement works, just kind of moving over in silence to watch from one to the next. I'll just roll an entrancement for each picture because they're all freaking gorgeous, and realistically she probably would look at one and then go for a while and then look at the other and get just as twinkly-eyed. So she moves from the first one over to the second one, which she also does fine on, watching the brush strokes going up and down, just like looking her head up like a little kid, and then moves over to the next one that's like another full-size like life portrait, and finally this one that's like full-sized and bigger than her. She's just kind of like stops everything else she's doing and just like looks in and like almost wants to smell it but is too afraid to touch it, and just stops just short of the picture, just can use the force and anything, not wanting to touch this.
Okay, while Calliope's internet catches up with her. The prince ponders over the events of this Elysium. It seems that the Camarilla community has in part shown a due willingness to the tithe and a renewed cooperation in helping with the city. The Giovanni, however, have been more than antagonistic. They have directly challenged his right to rule. Having briefly read over the cliff notes of the promise, he has sent some phone calls via Jeffrey to see if he can get the actual wording of the treaty from members of his clan to look over it with a fine-tooth comb. He knows that direct confrontation is certainly not on the cards. But he won't. It's not in his nature not rise to any challenge, and this promise, as well as this insult, is just another challenge to him. He notices that the hostess is slowly but surely making her way towards him. He delights in every time she stops and takes out his own watch just to see how long each of the pitchers takes to entrap her for before heading towards him. Oh, is she frozen again? Since the Toreador seems to be caught within the paintings, he takes out his phone and he messages the sheriff. We need to talk. JS. He also considers calling a Primogen Council meeting, but that bunch of bickering children will be very ineffective, and there is more important things to focus on for the city.
She kind of snaps out of it. Sorry.
It's quite alright. It has made the desired effect.
She just kind of looks there with a guilty look on her face and just looks back at the picture. One of those kind of like, oops, I had no idea if you were saying anything and I wasn't paying attention to you because this picture was so pretty. Looks.
It's quite alright. John was just thinking he knows that until she's ready to speak that she's going to be in trance for a while, so she hasn't missed anything, but she doesn't know that. So I think this Elysium's a roaring success, as we knew it would be.
Oh, well, I would have liked more partying and this and that and dancing and people about, but meh. It's okay.
I think there's too many problems in this city for people to truly unwind, but at least they always know that there's a place that they can go if they want to forget their troubles.
Well, they have one, but that doesn't help the city if the person in charge doesn't have a place that he can go to.
Yes. I've been finding myself looking for different escapes a lot recently. Music. The waves. Retail therapy. He says to the enormous picture that obviously cost a small fortune in itself.
But it's not the same. You know?
You know. You get the hand we're dealt. Besides, I'm always jubilant to see others have fun.
That doesn't help you, though.
Well, I can't be too miserable. Some may say that I've had more fun than many kindred at least twice my age.
I think they have less fun when they get older. But speaking of all the festivities, you did ask for a final song in one form or the other.
There'll be a perfect end to a perfect evening, Miss Tavelaris. You spoil your prince.
I don't know about that. I suppose I need to go beef up security now after the Giovanni's people eyed down my facility.
They wouldn't dare strike against you directly. They have a promise to keep as much as we have to them.
They've done it before, and the whole place has been lit on fire before. What's to stop Giovanni, who are far more resourced than some neonate driving a truck?
I would not let that happen again. And he's very earnest that he would never allow that to happen again.
I don't know what you can do. I might need to go find a second place to go be. That's no one knows about.
If you need sanctuary, I have plenty of places. Not that you've ever had needed my help for defending yourself.
They have other things I haven't seen.
Yes, I'm going to have a word with the Tremere about that, see if they've got anything that can counter their Scooby-Doo antics.
Don't want the Tremere.
They're indebted, and besides, they are our resident occultic experts in the Camarilla.
I can't control them. They could plant bugs, they could plant things that'll backfire on me, screw me over again. She looks at just Tremere, she's like, not cool with Tremere. Past experiences.
I said discuss, not exactly throw open the doors and wash my neck for them.
Well, enough of them.
Let us not talk of Giovanni and Tremere. I was kind of hoping this Elysium would be a chance to get away from all that and indulge in, well, the things we so easily miss. How did you say it? The beauty that lies all around us.
Maybe. And she just waits for him to pick what he wants to do.
Well, he says, a little tentatively, he's not exactly sure how to act around her. He certainly knows that being the prince isn't going to help him with any stretch of the imagination, but he also knows that there's a vast distance between them now. And so he sort of falls back on his old English monicum and etiquette and bows slightly, arm raves. After you, Miss Tavlaris.
Where am I leading you to?
With all the troubles in the world, I think it's time I took a ride.
He kind of cocks the head to the one side. Not quite sure what he wants to get at. Like, when he starts throwing more of the English gentleman and less of, like, a sincere person, like, what he's trying to fall back on is exactly what throws her off. So, because she knows it's not the person that she knows, you know, it's just decorum.
I think it was in one of our first meetings where you explained the freedom of expression through music through taking a ride.
Not NASCAR. Very well then.
Nas what?
Not NASCAR. I'm not dressed for the races. Oh, you're so English. And she just looks at him. NASCAR, and says it with a little bit of a drawl from having been in Georgia. You know, Dale Earnhardt, the other racers, no, yes, and just looks to see if any of it rings a bell.
It's just it's a blank stare and the slight narrowing of eyes because he's trying to work out if you're mocking him or not. Is this some sort of sport? Oh, she's frozen again. So the two head downstairs towards the performance area, the stage in which the instrument is set
You
up.
guys totally have. Have you?
Yeah, we didn't get any of that back because you just froze. And you're frozen again. Are you back with us?
I caught robot.
Yeah, you just froze and then
There you are.
yeah. That's good.
You're moving again.
Right. So the two heads downstairs towards the staging area where the where the pianos are being held. John leads her tentatively towards the instruments and takes a seat himself, putting the cane against the floor, sort of wringing his hands, not pressing hands on keys yet, as if he's not quite ready. Sort of, if she, because she knows him well, he's sort of building his frustrations within himself. He's purging himself of all the little intricacies and frustrations that the Elysium has caused. Well, the last few months have occurred, as he just wants to forget it and release it in one big glorious expression.
She'll move over towards the general direction of him, just kind of waiting for instructions on where to go, not taking charge like she usually does.
He turns around. The frustration in his sort of frame and voice is very absent when he speaks to her. It's slightly strained, like he's trying to keep it back. But he goes, "Well, I have been practicing slightly." And he says, he places hands upon keys, putting out a steady jazz rhythm. There's no real sort of coherent narrative. He's not looking from a piece of sheet music. It's just sort of the pure sound. And he starts off like a very simple rhythm, but soon starts to pick up pace as more and more different layers of complexity of the music are brought in, one on top of each other, and the speed constantly increases into a crescendo. You can see that his hands are almost like a blur, sometimes missing the keys entirely and putting out a dull note or an off key. But it's less about the sound being produced, but more just the constant onrushing wave of frustrations and different tenebras and notes and symphonies that are all happening within his mind at once. I'm just going to roll my performance and dex. And with 3 successes, it does seem to have some sort of resonance to it.
She waits for him to be done with his set of things before sitting down to anything, letting him finish.
He slowly peters off and then go into a more sort of classic sort of rhythm, just generally to keep his hands moving rather than actually playing music. And turns to her, sort of looking for approval.
Doing better than you did before. Although I think last time you tried to jump into Beethoven before starting with Handel and Bach and Mozart, which should have come first.
Well, for you, Calliope, better than before is high praise indeed. I'm worried there are.
But it's still There's a difference between anger music and vulnerability. You're just, I mean, it's like following the chord progressions in the loop and then adding in, you know, a seventh or a passing tone or things like that. You know, the way the jazz charts tell you to play and follow the circle of fifths and navigate around various things so that other people can predict what you're doing and how things are going to play. And that was more speed than letting yourself be vulnerable. I suppose you can't now.
He sort of appears quite sad at that point. You know, I have been reading Letharius's old journals. He had many of a collection of cousins who had attained princedom. The complexities of one's mask, even in the theosophical realm, is daunting. I believe it was Lambard of my clan that says the prince must have at least 5 masks to be able to choose from at every given point, 7 or 8 for emergencies.
But with all those masks, you're going to lose who you are.
You know as well as I do, when it comes to the Ventrue, who you are is less important to what you can do. He says sadly.
Talking about the Ventrue. Talking about you. John, not Prince, not Ventrue, none of the rest of that. And she moves over back to where the bar area is and pulls out another bottle and just brings it over. Puts it, you know, the piano is not, you know, stick's not up right now, so, you know, lid's down. Just puts it back there, and he knows exactly what one it is. You're gonna lose him.
We all need reminders. Why, perhaps I'm lucky in the fact that neither of us can forget. I've always got you to fall back on.
Sometimes I wish I could. And she moves closer to where the keys are, and just scoots a little bit so that she's kind of in front of Middle C, so he can either take another chair or he can, you know, sit on the corner edge of that bench. And jumps into. It starts out. It's Debussy's Arabesque, which I played in another scene before anyway. But it starts out like this rolling hill just going up and down with a lot of give and take and pull, and it almost feels like it ripples like waves and then stops for a little bit and then moves more towards this trickling waterfall effect of just the right hand moving down in these triplets until it hits this 9th chord and then resolves itself. But it's just this constant ebb and flow of the piece of music until it gets to the B section, and then the B section almost sounds more like triumphant and back to regular types of major and minor, you know, tactile chords, bigger blocks of chords counterpointing to the arpeggios that it had had before, as if it were something more regal, and it just was something that needed to stand strong and it fades back into a minor, almost as if it were acting strong, but then not really being where it needs to be. And then it before it goes back into a recapitulation of the A section, it just has this almost floaty, ethereal, like upper treble, dreamlike kind of a state to it until it goes back ever so slowly and just creeps back into that first like rolling wave theme going up and down, and then modifies it a little bit at the end as it does more rolling arpeggios up to the top until it finishes with this like delicate light chords that just happen at the end. But the whole give and take, just there's a lot of hurt there, there's a lot of like thinking, there's a lot of pensiveness to it, and hopefully not a lot of ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's take that one out. 5, 6, 7. Okay, yeah, 7. For Dex and Performance and Celerity.
Yeah. With 7 successes, John is actually openly weeping at the music.
I mean, he can kind of infer that it, tells a story of, like, more pastoral, and then it goes to something that's much more rigid in the middle, and then it finally fades back away from that and goes back to the pastoral again, almost as if it were like, waterfalls. But he can tell that she's kind of just like letting it go with everything that she kind of wants to say, but she just doesn't know how to formulate it into words, And just finishes the rest of the upper treble and sits there and just lingers with the fingers on the keys just depressed down so that the hammers are up, so that the strings can just dissipate into the air until the vibrations stop, and then lets the fingers back up and pulls it back down.
John will focus his Auspex into his ears as he strain to hear the last humming notes of the final keys as they echo through the silence of the cabaret, from the soundboards to the stage, to the small vibrations left within the glasses, until all is but complete silence.
Yeah.
Nothing can be heard but the slight creaking of the chair and the noise of the air conditioning. He reaches over a tentative hand towards Calliope's and clasps it in his own, also not wanting to speak, hoping that what he wishes to say and what he can't doesn't have to spoil the silence.
The upper treble that wasn't even there, because she probably finishes playing, how many is it, 5? Yeah, it finishes with 5 notes, and because of the way the harmonic series works and the piano being in tune, he can hear an additional probably 3 or 4 with his heightened senses on in the treble up above that, just being sympathetic vibrations from the strings, just like extra notes that are put into the chord that actually, aren't being played. And those ones will probably fade out last. And with the new position and him being so occupied with the job and not having time for anything, she just, for once, is at a loss for words because she doesn't know how to treat the situation.
While she was playing music, he did attempt to aura read her, but I didn't get enough successes because she was pale. So after a long moment of semi-awkward silence has sort of subsided, he sort of breathes in and with a weary smile sort of turns and simply says, "It's a lot harder than I make it seem. And I don't think I can do it alone."
What? I mean, she inside she kind of knows what he's thinking, but she wants to hear it.
Balancing my duty to this city as well as my self.
There's only space for one on that throne. You know that, John. And it's a lonely princedom where everyone wants to stab you in the back.
Well, we've broken rules before. Who's to dictate how many chairs are supposed to be on my throne?
I don't want any thrones. I just want you. And she just kind of like not snaps it out, but just, the frustration of having just been feeling like she had been shut out the whole entire time and pushed away. Like, if he's trying to read that, he'll probably pick up really strongly that, hadn't been trying to deliberately give a cold shoulder, but just had been so frustrated at being pushed away from everything and feeling like there was no space.
I haven't gone anywhere, Calliope. I'm still John. It's broken.
You have to do it again, sorry.
Alright.
Okay.
Right. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm still here. Everything I do is because you have given me the strength to do it. I finally have a reason to actually do the things that I'm supposed to. Without you, well, it is a hollow position.
But what good is doing those things if you don't have time to enjoy anything?
I find that without you, I have far too much time. Running the city is far less time-consuming than you may think. Once the initial chaos has resumed, everything is starting to click into place. I have been taking up piano, I have been taking the opera, the theatres, all to try and forget the fact that I'm doing it all alone.
Katie?
No.
I taught her how to flush her cheeks.
He says, smiling at the tension of the moment. Yes, she was so proud when she told me, and I found it a bit peculiar when she refused to tell me how she had picked it up. I thought she was a prodigy for a while.
Well,
You girls and your secrets.
we did have a little movie night, but I had to make sure that she had bright rosy cheeks, because all people love little girls with bright rosy cheeks, and made sure to up my strength and not let go of her hand after she was already well fed before going to a private viewing in the Odyssey.
That's genius. Why didn't I think of that?
Well, because you've never watched Frozen.
Oh no, I've watched Frozen. He says sadly and a little wearily.
Oh, sorry.
Having that vivid memory is that you remember it a lot quicker than everyone else remembers it. But I'm not that good with children. I was barely one myself, and no siblings to speak of. Well, I'm not going to bore you with the same old sad story. You know where I came from. Just want to be a better father than mine was, you know.
Well, some do, some don't. I worry where that's going to go in 10 years.
Well,
I'm sorry I made you think you had to do it.
I don't think any of us can be held responsible for our actions at that time. The more I think of it, it would explain a lot about this city. All the chaos, the infighting, the madness that permeates every brick of this city. It would make complete sense that we are all under the effect of a fever dream of some ancient, who is only now waking up.
I don't think I told you what it was, did I?
He looks a bit puzzled.
A dream.
No.
Needless to say, it had everything that I wanted in it until it all went terribly wrong, and I came out of it being so angry that all of that was taken away. I just was so jealous of everyone else's simple things. So lost, so wanting it for myself. But that's not the dice that were rolled. Got to the point where I just didn't care anymore. And now I'm going in there.
Never rains, it pours.
You know, I do it for duty too. I'm not the only one who has a sense of duty, despite my carefree demeanor and bon vivant nature. There are some things I'll go to bat for and stick by until death.
I know all too well. This is this life, whether we chose it or not. We've been given our roles to play. But it doesn't mean we always have to be on the clock.
So you're not pushing me away then. Getting rid of any and all ties that would lead to vulnerability.
Yeah. No. I'm sure we've had this argument when I became Primogen.
I'm whip now.
You took a title. Well...
It involved whips and chains. I was okay with that.
In all fairness, we all know you would have been Prince of the City if you put your mind to it.
I don't want that shit.
No. I have yet to see the payoff, but ask me again in 10 years and hopefully you'll get a different answer.
They're still around.
I'm not planning to go anywhere.
Speaking of, and she'll is the hand still there or
And then she moved away, and then he'll
no?
there. But he's still a bit flighty and nervous and doesn't want to sort of scare her off, so if she moves, he will withdraw it.
She'll go and put the other one just on top of that. With the Giovanni scoping my place, I don't know if I want to stay put for the night. They might come back and try to make an example.
Well, that would be the last mistake they'd make in this city. But if you wish to carry on the evening, I'm sure there'll be some sort of. He tries to think of a American expression. Diner open at this hour?
Yeah, they do have some of those up north. I think I might just want to retire for an early night. Don't know if I have the energy to go out.
Well, you're always welcome in my domain.
I think I still have some clothes. She kind of side cracks a smile thinking about the time when the other Ventru walked in there.
John smiles and goes, "Oh, it's fine. I own the whole building now." He says, standing up and sort of driving. "In fact, I've had to move, dedicate an entire wing to the rest of your clothes. Such vast clothes. They seem to multiply even when I'm not looking at them. I fear they might consume the building."
Just lucky I haven't met Stitches yet.
Something we will have to remedy. Did you see my suit at the Elysium?
Being a appearance 5 Toreador with fashion sense as one of her appearance merits, she just knows. Looked much better than your previous stuff.
I couldn't believe how soft it was. I almost died. I had a Toreador fit when he put it on.
Nice things are worth the effort.
Well, a professional hand always helps. Well, I'm sure you can teach me many things about today's fashion
And I won't set you up in a Yankees jersey going into a socked bar like I did with Mr. Page.
that would be appreciated. I had my first ventures into the unformal attire at the Tremere Elysium. I believe it's called jeans and a hoodie. I thought it would fit the building better.
You?
Yes, how did I put it? I looked quite gangster.
Oh, I'm sure. With your giant size and accent and appropriate demeanor. Yes, just up there with Rojas.
Oh, please. London-born. We are the original gangsters.
I grew up in Atlanta. But she will get up off of the bench to hopefully follow his lead.
John takes her by the arm, and the two continue their teasing small talk as they exit the cabaret. Lindsay.